Hi everyone, hope you're doing well. This is going to be my very belated planner update. It is going to be a combination of October and November. And my regular watchers might have noticed that I skipped last Sunday's video. I think I've uploaded every Sunday for the past few years, and it is a streak that I have been very proud of. But yeah, last week I had a lot of things going on and I could have put out a video, but I was just like, you know what, I'm not gonna unnecessarily push myself. So yeah, hopefully we can finish off this year on a strong note. So let's get started. A lot of things to share, although many of you might also know that I have been extremely busy with designing for the 2026 collection and for preparing for Black Friday and all of that. So I honestly haven't done much quote-unquote extracurriculars. I think I mostly just like try to stay consistent in my Hobonichi Cousin, and you will also see later that I wasn't like fully consistent there either. So yeah, a lot of my other accessory journals got neglected for the past few months, but I will still show you whatever I do have. Alright, starting with my reading journal. Again, I just have not really read anything in the past few months because I mean, it would be a lie to say like I didn't have a spare 15 minutes every day, but I just like have been literally working from the moment I wake up to whenever I decide to go to bed. So, you know, even if I had 15 minutes, I was just too tired and my brain wasn't focusing. So it could be just excuses, but yeah, I haven't really read anything. I do remember a few weeks ago, I read a few pages of the worldly philosophers, so I might have written a few things here. I also did read a little bit of the Book of Disquiet. I don't believe I added to my journal entry here, so yeah. Now that Black Friday's over and I am almost done with the 2026 collection part 2 design work, I have kind of allowed myself to get back into some of my other hobbies as well. So yeah, for the past week or so, I have been really trying to read a little bit each day, even though I have a lot of unread books. Sorry, I meant unfinished books that are still in progress. I felt like starting a new book. I kind of need that dopamine hit, you know? So yes, I started reading The Master and Margarita, and so far I'm loving it. Oh, by the way, it is raining outside and it's 8 in the morning, so that is why my lighting is terrible right now. But anyways, another reason why I wanted to start a new book was because I wanted to finally use the Emoji Stamp Set Volume 9, which is like the reading journal stamp set. Although I do feel like I need a better black ink because this is kind of faded and I don't like that very much. For the ink, which again, I know the lighting's terrible, but I inked up my Leonardo Momento Magico gold nib extra fine with the diamine salamander ink. And I got this a few months ago. It is a really interesting color. I think it's supposed to be like a green khaki, but on some papers it shows more brown. On some, like the Stalogy paper, it's more green, and on some it just looks more gray. But yeah, I also haven't used my Leonardo fountain pen for quite a few months. Another thing about being so wrapped up with deadlines is that I just kind of lost passion for playing with my pens. So yeah, I finally cleaned it out and I'm gonna start playing with my pens again. And then for my reading journal, I always pick like a secondary color for the vocabulary, and this pink ink is Robert Oster Melbourne Rose in the Coeco medium nib. Alright, so this is literally it for my reading journal. Hopefully I can start reading more and I'll have better updates for you next time. Next up, I have my Commonplace journal, which, similar to the reading journal, I just have not really read anything or been interested in anything for the past few months, but I do have a single entry. This was an article from The New Yorker, and the ink is Port of Call, which I also got a few months ago. It is a gorgeous teal color. Once again, I know my lighting's terrible, but it really is pretty in person. Okay, so that is it for my Commonplace journal. I have been itching to do more math lately, so maybe I will have some math entries in the next update. Okay, I don't know which one I want to talk about first. Recipe journal. I also haven't really cooked too much. I do cook most of my meals at home, but I mean like trying new recipes. But I do believe I added two recipes. So the first one is in the savory section, so number 6. So I had a friend visit me, and they are from Nigeria, so I decided to try to make jollof rice. I never had jollof rice before, so I don't know if I did a good job, but I followed a recipe from Zena's Kitchen, and I personally really enjoyed it. Although like I don't have really good spice tolerance, so it was a little bit too spicy for me. Okay, and then what was the other one that I added? Sweet potato brownies. That's in number 4. There we go. Although I feel like I should have added this to my healthy desserts section. I feel like I should have added that in May. But anyways, this was really good. Obviously not as like rich and delicious as a regular brownie, but it was good for what it is. I still really enjoyed it, and I really like this sweet potato doodle that I made. So yes, this is my reading journal. And then I will quickly talk about my ADHD notebook. I think I included this in one of my recent videos, but I finished my previous ADHD notebook, so I decided to start a new one, and this is a Leuchtturm pocket bullet journal, and I have it in the dot grid. I love the crackling spine sound, although of course now it's not gonna, yeah, there we go. Anyways, I have this trying emoji vinyl, and I hand lettered Helen, and I pretty much kept it the same as my previous one. So instead of using it portrait wise, I use it landscape wise, and that's because I want more room to write down my to-do list, and I don't want like a single to-do list task to take up 2 lines. I just draw a margin with my Mildliner, the bullet tip, all the way down. I just freehand it, and this is basically just a continuous to-do list. And I also prefer it to be landscape because I feel like this flows better, whereas if I were to write it portrait wise, you can imagine like by the time I get to the bottom, I would have to like go back to the top over here. So yeah, again, I feel like this just flows better. Very simply, this is just my very nitty-gritty to-do list for each work block. So between the 2 bars, that is like maybe 2 or 3 hours of work. The to-do list is also written chronologically, and I also write down very detailed steps of what I have to do. And this just really helps me with focusing, and also just that like feeling of accomplishment, I suppose, for checking off a task. So yeah, this has been really helpful with my productivity for the past year maybe. I don't use this like for every hour of the day, and I don't necessarily use it every day. And I will just quickly say everyone with ADHD is different, so this like super nitty-gritty system might be the opposite of what someone else with ADHD needs. So yeah, for my lifestyle and my work, this has been really helpful. And then before I get into the Hobonichi Cousin, I will talk about my Hobonichi Weeks, which is still going strong. I'm really, really proud of myself. And unless I like break a leg in December, oh gosh, I hope I didn't jinx it. But yeah, unless something happens, I think we will make it through December. So this is my steps and workout tracker. Here is a little close-up. This is a tally. This is my monthly average of steps. The little circles are color codes for the steps, and then beside that is an abbreviation of my workouts. Moving on to October, yes. I think I showed part of this in my September planner update, but I just very simply doodled some flowers here. Another very simple week. I just doodled some trees and a little house using colored pencils and some warm marker colors. For this week, I went to Chicago, so I didn't really buy any groceries, which is why I didn't fill out the on sale section. For this week, I used the Hobonichi blue ink. still really liking this pen. Okay, so I was in Chicago for the first few days and then I got back home. However, I caught a cold, so I decided to let myself rest for a few days and not really work out. But like I didn't work out in Chicago, so coming back I was really looking forward to getting back into routine, and then I got a cold, so I was just going through some mental battles, I suppose. This was Halloween week. I was still dealing with my cold. I really like this black cat sticky note. Then this was a sticker set from Mindwave, and I did a matching spread in my Hobonichi Cousin as well, which you will see later. And starting this week, I stopped tracking my symptoms for my hives and I went back to tracking my daily highlight of each day, which I used to do towards the beginning of the year before this whole allergy situation started. Mostly because my symptoms, they're still there every single day, unfortunately, but it just hasn't really changed. So I felt like writing it down every day was just kind of useless. So yeah, I decided to, you know, focus more on the positives and start looking at the highlights of each day again. Unfortunately, you know what, I'll talk about this later. So yes, I really do like how this turned out. This week I used the Van Gogh Starry Night washi, one of my favorites. This was a grayscale week, which I also did a matching spread in my Hobonichi Cousin. This is a stone gray emoji heads washi and some doodle stickers from Midori. This week, I did exercise a little bit. However, it was definitely a very out of routine week because again, one of my friends was visiting me and they stayed with me for a little over a week, so I didn't want to like leave them in my house while I go work out, you know. So yes, I basically didn't use my Hobonichi Weeks all week, and instead at the end of the week, I instead of leaving this empty, I decided to just do a general reflection on a few things. So exercise, eating, and social. And a summary of what I wrote is, I think for exercise, I was really proud of myself for not like completely mentally spiraling, for not being on my exercise routine, because I've mentioned this a few times, but I am a very routine-based person and I do not do well with change. So yeah, I was very proud of myself for being okay with it in general. As for eating, same thing. I basically eat the same thing every single day. Because I had a guest, I was eating a bit more consistently throughout the day because I had someone else to cook for. And I also tried some new recipes. And then as for social things, my general reflection was that in order to have a community of people and to have a social life, you kind of have to sacrifice a little bit of your individual comfort. Like when I'm by myself and isolated, I can obviously do everything that I want to do the way I like doing it, and I am very disciplined. However, when you involve other people, you don't always get to do things the way you like. And also, for example, maybe on a Sunday, I just want to rest at home, but a friend of mine has a birthday party, or a friend of mine asked me to help them move. So in that sense, you do have to sacrifice a little bit of your personal comfort, but I do think it is a lot more meaningful. And I guess my final thought was like, at the end of my life, looking back at your life, what is the point of like just saying, yeah, I did everything perfectly every single day, but you have no one to share it with, you know? Okay, I'm sorry, I don't know why I went on that tangent. And then this is this current week. So yeah, earlier I said unfortunately, because as you can see, I went back to tracking my hive symptoms because this week I have just noticed that I have been a little bit more inflamed than usual, and some of my previous symptoms are back. So yeah, I'm tracking that again. Hopefully it's not too big of a deal, but yeah. Anyways, that is everything in my Hobonichi weeks. I'm gonna be honest, I am getting a bit tired, so I think I will go over my Hobonichi Cousin another day. Okay, next up we are going to flip through all of my Hobonichi Cousin spreads. If you can't tell, this is a different day because I have trouble speaking for extended periods of time. So anyways, this is going to make up the majority of this video, and I have a lot of spreads to share. Starting with the monthly section, starting with October, which is one of my favorite themes. It's like a outdoorsy mountains and forest theme. And every time I get to use this new quarter sticker, I feel like it's kind of like a reward. Here is July, and then here's April, and oh, I guess I didn't put it for January. Whoops. Love the colors of this one. And then we have November, which was a little bit crazy, and I did film a video, Plan With Me video on this one. I had a lot of deadlines, as you can see, and I had a friend stay over for a little over a week, and I also had the Black Friday Cyber Monday sale. I have not planned for December yet, but I think I'll do that tomorrow. A very wintry color palette, which I'm really excited to work with. All right, then for the weekly section, I think my weekly spreads for November, maybe October as well, they weren't as complete. So yes, you might notice some empty days. Starting off pretty strong though. This is the At the Cafe washi, which is like a die cut washi, and I love this scenery so much. And I don't know what it is about this week, but I feel like it's a lot more minimal looking than my other ones. I was excited to show the new tab colors for 2026, and we had Mid-Autumn Festival dinner. This is also a very warm autumnal theme, except instead of using like washi tape and stickers, I just made some doodles. Very simple, but I really like it. And as you can see on the sidebar, I have kept this layout for many months now. So by this point, I kind of know exactly where to put the headers and stuff, but I got a little bit cocky, and as you can see, I miscalculated by a square. Anyways, let's move on. This was a fun week. Towards the middle of October, I went to Chicago. So to kind of represent that, I split the week into two colors. So this is Planning Time 4.0, which is like an orangey striped washi. And then this is 3.0, which is a really pretty denim blue color. Kind of matches my nails. So yeah, I used that to represent my time in Chicago. And I think this looks really cool. It's like contrasting colors, and I also feel like it still gives some autumnal vibes. Here at the bottom, I used the Emoji Stamp Set Volume 8, which is like my wonky bubble lettering. And for the ink, I just used Tombow markers instead of like actual ink pads, so that it actually matches the spread. It's a really nice trick to use markers instead of ink pads. However, I do find that the stamping doesn't look as crisp. I will talk a little bit more about my Chicago trip later because it was a wild one. Okay, the next week, as you can see, this is where I kind of started falling off, but that's okay. But I do really like how I did the washi tape at the top. So the idea was, because I used blue to represent my time in Chicago here, I thought it would be cool to kind of like fade it out of blue into brown. So yes, Monday I was still in Chicago, and Tuesday, that is when I flew back. And then after Tuesday, you can see that I kind of picked out some light blue and then beige and then brown washi. I do wish I finished this spread though, because I think it looks really cool. Okay, then this was Halloween week. So I used the Cozy Halloween 2.0 washi tape, which is the same as 1.0, but it's a muted purple instead of a gray. Also a little bit empty on the weekend here. Oh, also this was the 2026 collection launch day. Then we had the subscription renewal, and then we had the subscription new slots. So this was just a really crazy weekend. And then we have November. This was using a set of stickers from Mindwave, I believe. And I think these colors are just so unique and perfect for fall. Once again, I did kind of fall off on the weekend over here. Apparently I was feeling a little off on this day, so I didn't really like schedule anything, but I just quickly wrote a blurb about how I was feeling. This wasn't really a seasonal spread. I feel like this reminds me of spring and summer more, but I just really wanted to use the July doodle stickers, and I doodled a bunch of strawberries at the top. I really struggled this week because, as you can see, I ran out of my ADHD medication, although like I did still have like a lower dose on hand, so I still took it, but it just wasn't the same, so I was a little off this entire week. This is a grayscale week, and I used a bunch of these doodle stickers from Midori, and a lot of it's like coffee and tabletop journaling themed. And this is when my friend came over and spent the week here. This was a really rainy week, so I used the Emotional Rain washi tape, and I paired it with the June City Life stickers because, again, my friend was here for the entire week, so we went to Vancouver, downtown Vancouver, quite a bit, so I thought it was fitting. And this was also my mom's birthday. And this is this current week. I really wanted to squeeze out just one more autumnal spread before we dive into some like wintry spreads. Those were all of the weekly spreads. Moving on to the dailies. What is going on here? So many flaps. Okay, I'm gonna move my tea out of the way. For October and November, you will see a lot of strange layouts like this, just because, again, I have been very off lately and not really feeling like myself, so I have a lot of like out of routine things. So for this spread, I decided to do kind of like a mind map. So I have things that are going well and things that are stressing me out, and I kind of just freely wrote a bunch of stuff. I don't really want to read all of this, but aesthetically, I like how this looks. October 2nd. I thought this was really funny. It was like 9 p.m. and I was simultaneously having sleepy time tea and a cup of coffee. I do that quite often just to confuse myself. Let's see. I had a lot of things to do for the tabs. I don't quite remember. I think maybe like a PNG export, a cut file, and the listing photo for each of the color options. This was another one of the weird spreads where I just ripped out one of the pages in the middle and I cut out the headers over here and I pasted it onto the remaining pages. So this way I only needed to fill out half of the space. I do this sometimes if I'm just like particularly busy and I also don't feel like leaving an empty space. I think over here I was having stomach problems. For this spread, I was using mostly the foiled seal stickers. Yes, I dropped a 45-pound plate on my finger. I think I talked about this in a plan with me or something. My thumb is okay now, so that's all good. This was a spread inspired by Aquaphor, which is a healing ointment. Not sponsored. I just discovered that it really helped with my skin issues. So yes, this is my dedication to Aquaphor. And then on this day, it was another busy day. I spent basically the entire day doing formatting for the 2026 collection color charts. I had already done the marker swatches several weeks prior. However, I haven't created the actual chart and it took way longer than I expected. So that was basically my entire day. And I really like how these color palettes look. Some swatches of the new washi tapes, and I need to sleep earlier. This is still true. I sometimes do overviews like this where I just doodle a little icon and write a blurb next to it. Why was I getting nervous? I wrote, I have this dreadful feeling that I have overlooked something or forgotten something, but I honestly can't remember what the context was. It's interesting how these things were probably really stressing me out at the time, but just a mere month later, I can't remember anymore. I doodled this thingy to kind of look like the tabs of a website, which I thought was really cool. And what's this reality check? No calm tea can help undo 3 months of sleep deprivation and overwork. Get some sleep. Whoops. I just pasted a little sticky note. This was my very sophisticated plan for the week. This was my trip to Chicago, and I did another one of those Dutch store thingies. I used the emojis in Chicago washi tape over here. The reason why my trip to Chicago was kind of wild was because I was supposed to leave on Saturday. I got to the airport, we boarded the flight, and the plane started moving. However, after a minute or so, it stopped, and long story short, the flight got canceled, so I had to go all the way back home, and I got rebooked to Sunday. So I went back to the airport and repeated everything, and then I finally got to Chicago. So I basically wasted an entire day. The funny thing was the rebooked flight was for the exact same time, and I also had the exact same seat. So I just felt very trippy because it felt like I was just like repeating an entire day. And also both days I had Joe and the Juice at the airport. But yeah, I really like how he did these headers. I think they look cool. So this was my only full day in Chicago, which was kind of sad. I was supposed to have 2 full days, but it is what it is. I went to Phil's Coffee, I toured the University of Chicago, went to Plein Air Cafe and Dessert, had breakfast, and then the next day I flew back to Vancouver. And then here I wrote, when it's a very busy week and you wake up with an itch in your throat. So yeah, right after I got back from Chicago, I caught a cold. So that was fun. And I was really stressed because I had a lot of things to work on. These are some swatches of the Q4 subscription washi tape. Here are some ideas I had for the Hobonichi Weeks. This was another off day. I think, again, I was still dealing with the cold. I made a section for morning, afternoon, and evening. And I basically just wrote down a few key things that I did and also a little summary. Getting more sick. And simultaneously, I was also still dealing with the hives. So that's wonderful. Oh gosh, okay. And then continuing on with this wonderful streak. On Sunday, my dad, we had to call an ambulance for my dad, and I basically spent the entire day at the hospital, and this was just basically my stream of thoughts about that. These were like the hospital parking tickets. On this day, another weird one, I just wrote down some things that I wanted to journal about but forgot. So yeah, these were just like past things that happened, but I guess like I forgot to write about it during that day, but I still wanted to write about it. This was my Halloween candy plan. So I handed out goldfish crackers, nerds, and gummy clusters, gummies, Reese's Pieces, and Sour Patch Kids. Every year I put a lot of thought into my Halloween candy selection, so I was really proud of that this year. Is this something to be proud of? I don't know. This was a spooky but not so spooky spread to celebrate Halloween. However, something that was spooky was when I went on a run on this day, I was chased by a dog, so that was not fun. Okay, moving on to November. I really like how I did this prompts page. For past months, I just did a plain list like this. Just wrote it like that. But for November, I decided to have a little bit more fun. Doodled some buttons over here. These colors remind me of like Neapolitan ice cream. These are some sketches for my Hobonichi Cousin cover idea. Here are some swatches of the Midori join dot markers. I was feeling a little burnt out these days. At least my journal spread is looking cute. Got some new pants on this day. Fun. And for this spread, I wrote it upside down. Yeah, just because I didn't want to answer the prompt right away, so just to not like have to estimate the space I would need, I started from the bottom. These are some ink samples that I got from my friend. I had another weird day. Oh yes, so my walking pad broke, I think, on this day, and for a few days I didn't have my walking pad, which I know sounds not like a big deal. However, walking is one of the ways that I relieve my pent-up anxieties, and it really helps with my mental health. And also it has just been part of my daily routine for the past maybe 3 years. So I kind of had a really off day on this day because I do not do well with changes in routine. That's why my to-do list was looking a little weird as well. And this was a little doodle of my breakfast. I had scrambled eggs, crunchy green grapes, and kiwi. After a long day, what would be the best news ever? I guess I didn't have an answer there, so I will have to fill that out at some point. Tuesday was a very heavy design day, and I finally set up my laptop desk. I got it from IKEA, and this allows me to sit on the couch while typing away. If you could have a lifetime supply of 3 things under $3, what would you pick? And I specified on the prompts page that yes, you can say you would wish for a toonie or loonie, but just get more creative and have fun with it. So my answers were the Tombow Fudenosuke brush pen, black iced Americano, and giant perfectly ripe avocados at my disposal. I drew a little like prize ribbon and I wrote, "I am the source of my problems." It's good to have awareness, you know. Here I doodled a dynamite ink bottle because I finally inked up my Leonardo Momento Magico fountain pen with the salamander ink, and I really love it. This was a weird tomato theme. I really like these little tomato bullet points that I drew. They have little faces on them. And this evening I played Colonist, which is like an online version of Catan. Was that the best use of my time? I don't know. Okay, this was another weird spread. So as you can see, I ripped up a page in between and I saved the headers, put the 15th and 16th there, 17th over here. Again, a very busy few weeks. I got an order from Prana, just like some Majula dates, nuts, seeds, oatmeal, just like pantry items. And then starting this day, I had a bunch of car problems, issues with the battery. And I'm already like an anxious driver, so yeah, it was giving me a lot of grief there. A bunch of water smudges over here, yikes. Here I did some marker swatches. These were markers gifted to me by my friend Jean in Japan. The next day we were gonna go to Vancouver, but we decided to stay in, so that's why I wrote never mind. But we went on Sunday. I love these little pigeon doodles. And I think I said on Instagram that I want to do a full sheet of just pigeon stickers. The 24th, this was again my mom's birthday. And then this evening they brought a bunch of their fountain pens. So I had a fountain pen party, woohoo, and I just swatched a bunch of them. I went on a pastry run and got some pastries, obviously. And we had too many ripe bananas, so I made banana bread. This was a vegan, maybe gluten-free banana bread. And I severely underestimated the space that I needed, so that is why I kind of extended onto the next day. A little bit messy. I could have avoided this if I just moved everything a little bit to the left and didn't draw these bananas, but it is what it is. Thursday we went to Vancouver again, and we basically went antique shopping and we went to a bunch of secondhand bookstores, so that was really fun. And for dinner we had fish and chips. If you remember from my London trip, I tried mushy peas for the first time and instantly became obsessed, and I haven't had it since, so I was really excited to have mushy peas. I actually have a bag of frozen peas in my freezer from several months ago, but I haven't had the chance to make my own mushy peas yet, so I'll have to do that at some point. All right, this was Black Friday, so a bit crazy. I got 36k steps by 1 p.m. because I was just walking on the walking pad while replying to emails and such. Saturday and Sunday was a little bit busy, so I actually just entirely left the 30th empty and redrew the date header over here. Oh, and on Saturday we went to Vancouver again, and this time we stopped by the Vancouver pen shop, and my friend got a Pilot Vanishing Point medium nib, so that is why I was doing a swatch comparison. And you can see just how different it looks. I feel like from fine to the medium, it's a really big jump. I would love it if Pilot did like a medium fine, or I guess fine medium nib, so something in between. Sailor does that. Okay, so yes, again, I left the 30th empty, and these are meant for December's update. So that is it for this video. Probably going to be a really lengthy one, and I will really try to get my 2026 Hobonichi Cousin setup video out soon. So thank you so much for watching, and I hope you have a wonderful last few weeks of 2025. Goodbye and take care.